Hello and welcome to week 2. In week 2, we are going to be talking about ethics and social responsibility. This is something that all businesses deal with, and we're going to actually split this lecture up into 2 different lectures. So one lecture will be on ethics and one will be on social responsibility. So what is ethics? Ethics is the study of right or wrong and the morality of choices that individuals make. So business ethics is the application of moral standards to business situations. Business people face ethical issues every single day, and some of these issues can be very difficult to assess. These arise out of a business's relationship with their investors, their customers, their employees, their creditors, and their competitors. So what are some ethical issues that businesses face? Fairness and honesty. Fairness and honesty in business are important ethical concerns. Business people must obey all the laws and regulations, as well as refrain from knowingly deceiving, misrepresenting, or intimidating others. Organizational relationships. It may be tempting in an organization to place personal welfare above the welfare of others or even the organization itself. Your relationship with customers and coworkers often will create ethical problems, such as taking credit for somebody else's ideas or work, not meeting your own commitments, and pressuring others to behave unethically. In the world of higher ed, a perfect example of this is plagiarism. Plagiarism involves knowingly taking somebody else's words, ideas, or other original material without acknowledging the source. So in essence, you're basically stealing from somebody else. Conflict of interest. This results when a business person takes advantage of a situation for his or own personal interest rather than the employer's interest. And communications. Business communications, especially in advertising, so you're going to see this when you go through marketing management if you haven't already, they can present ethical questions. Advertisers must take precautions to guard against deception. If you deceive somebody into buying a product, that is an unethical behavior. So there are many factors that actually affect ethical behavior. And this can happen at 3 different levels: the individual level, the social level, and because of opportunity presents itself. So what are the individual factors? The individual knowledge of an issue. So if a decision maker has a great amount of knowledge regarding a situation, they may actually take steps to avoid an ethical problem, whereas a less informed person may take action unknowingly that leads to an unethical quagmire. So knowledge is very important in the role of ethics as well. Also, individual-wise, personal values. So an individual's moral values and central value-related attitudes will actually influence the way that they conduct themselves, or what we call business behavior, how you conduct yourself at work. And also personal goals. There are types of personal goals that an individual aspires to, and in the manner in which these goals are pursued have a significant impact on that individual's behavior in an organization. Have you ever worked with somebody that was very ambitious and was willing to step over anybody that they could to get to the top? Usually that is going to involve some type of unethical behavior. Now we're going to take a look at the social factors that influence ethical behavior. So cultural norms is a social factor that influences ethical behavior. So a person's behavior in the workforce, to some degree, is going to be determined by their cultural norms. And these social factors will vary from culture to culture. Coworkers. The actions and decisions of your coworkers constitute another social factor believed to shape a person's business ethics. So if you're in an environment where you see coworkers acting unethically, and that kind of becomes the cultural norm, you might feel yourself that it's okay to act unethically. You see this a lot in organizations too, when the people that actually get promoted are the ones that are engaging in unethical behavior. And so the mindset becomes the only way that I can advance in this organization is to act unethically myself. Your significant other. So the moral values and attitudes of your significant other, your spouse, your friends, your relatives, they can also affect your perception of what ethical and unethical behavior in the workplace is. And then the use of the internet. Even the internet presents new challenges for firms whose employees enjoy easy access to sites at work. So an employee's behavior online can be viewed as an offensive to other coworkers and possibly lead to lawsuits against the firm if an employee engages in unethical behavior on controversial websites not related to their job. And then opportunity. The presence of opportunity sometimes leads to unethical behavior. Opportunity refers to the amount of freedom an organization gives an employee to behave unethically if he or she makes that choice. Ethic codes. The existence of an ethical code and the importance of management's places on this code are other determinants of opportunity. And then enforcement. The degree of enforcement that the company's policies, procedures, and ethical codes is a major force affecting opportunity. So if you work in an organization where they do have an ethics code, but exceptions are made left and right, nobody's going to take the code seriously. So even if an ethical code is in place, it needs to be enforced as well. So how do you actually encourage ethical behavior? Most authorities agree that there is room for improvement in business ethics. A more problematic issue is whether businesses can be made more ethical in the world that we live in right now. So the government has stepped in and they encourage ethics. They've established acceptable levels of behavior by passing stringent regulations that basically protect people within the business world from ramifications or your employer coming back and firing you for actually bringing up unethical behavior. Trade associations also support ethical behavior by providing guidelines for their members to actually follow. I'm currently taking a class right now in fundraising and financial management of nonprofits, and was just introduced this week to the Code of Ethics for fundraisers. So many, whether it's an organization or whether it's a trade, they will set out standards that if you want to be part of and known as, you know, a good fundraiser, you're going to adhere to these ethical standards. And then individuals, companies' role in engaging ethics. So the code of ethics that a company provides to their employees are the most effective way to actually encourage ethical behavior. It's usually a written guide to acceptable and ethical behavior as defined by your organization. And it outlines uniform policies, standards, and punishments for every situation. Whoops. However, codes cannot possibly cover every situation. Companies must also create an environment in which the employee recognize the importance of the written code. Managers also have to provide direction by fostering communication, actively encouraging ethical decision-making, and training employees to make ethical decisions. Assigning an ethics officer who actually coordinates the ethical conduct gives employees someone that they can go to if they aren't sure of the right thing to do. This person is usually housed within the Department of Human Resources, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. This ethical or ethics officer meets with employees and top management to provide ethical advice, establishes and maintains an anonymous confidential service to answer questions about ethical issues, and takes action on ethics code violation. Now, if you have an organization that actually has experienced unethical behavior, if this is not kept in check, this practice of unethical behavior can actually become ingrained within an organization. Employees with high personal ethics may take controversial steps, and this is known as whistleblowing. And this is informing either the press or the government officials about unethical practices within an organization. Whistleblowing can actually have a serious repercussion for that employee. So the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 protects whistleblowers who report corporate misconduct. Any executive who actually retaliates against a whistleblower can be held criminally liable and imprisoned for up to 10 years. There was also another act called the Whistleblower Protection Act of 1989, and it protects federal employees who report an agency's misconducts. Also, if firms are actually able to set up an anonymous ethical hotline to handle ethical questionable situations, employees may feel more free to actually engage in whistleblowing. When firms create the environment that educates employees and nurtures ethical behavior, whistleblowing is greatly reduced because fewer ethical problems actually arise. So that's a little bit about ethics. I want you guys to take some time and just reflect on stuff that has been happening, within the last few years, and see if you can actually recall an incident that was in the news or something that you read about an unethical behavior that happened within a company, and the ramifications for that employee or for management as a result of that unethical behavior.